After Mia and I called it quits, everyone assumed I wasn't one to back down easily. I had worked my tail off to pave the way for her, helping her rise to fame as one of the top actresses in the biz. Out of the blue, right after she snagged a major award, she flipped the script and ended up with Leo, the industry's golden boy. But what nobody knew was that I was the one who pushed for the divorce. I had my sights set on Leo's wife, Lily, and even jumped at the chance to join a marriage swap reality show. After Mia and I split up, everyone thought I wouldn't let go without a fight. We met when we were both struggling at the bottom of our careers. As things started looking up, we went public with our marriage. Behind the scenes, I was hustling, guiding her step by step from being just a popular actress to a truly talented performer. But just as her transformation hit the jackpot and she won a big award, we announced our divorce, abruptly ending our marriage. All her fans thought I wasn't good enough for her and had plenty to say. They commented, "Mia made the right move. You should have left her ages ago to shine on your own. Being stuck with him is holding you back." But the truth was, I was the one who wanted out. Leo, the actor who co-starred in her latest drama, was all over the place, eating the meals she cooked, sipping her soups, and when they acted as the on-screen couple, I was still trying to get things right. I was prepping anniversary gifts, booking her favorite Western spots. But then, when I went to pick her up from the airport, I bumped into Leo. He greeted me super friendly and slyly mentioned, our flights are sharing a blanket this time, clearly trying to stir things up so Mia and I would split just how he wanted. I headed home, packed up all of Mia's stuff to send her away. Didn't want any used or dirty things left behind. Thankfully, we didn't have any kids to worry about. Mia leaned against the door, watching me with those haughty eyes, and asked disdainfully, "What else do you want?" I replied, "Your phone." She paused for a sec and handed it over. During our passionate years together, Mia's heart and eyes were always on me, sharing every little detail of her life on WeChat. I was her only pinned chat, but now I'd been replaced and set to Do Not Disturb for her messages. We managed to have an amicable divorce. She was all in to marry Leo and speed up our split. She even gave me most of the assets willingly, saying she truly loved Leo, after signing a non-disclosure agreement. The day she left, I thought we'd never talk again. But about a month after our divorce, she called me up again asking, "Can we meet one more time?" I showed up early and overheard Mia's manager chatting with her in the lounge. The manager was like, "We can't let fans know you cheated. The drama still needs to air. You're still a top actress post-divorce while he's stuck at the bottom waiting to be mocked. He must be pissed. Just play along. Say you want to join a reality show with him, make him think there's a chance to get back together, and he'll do anything to please you." Now, the plan was to cut their scenes during the show so the audience sees him as the bad guy and Mia as the victim to build her devoted image. Mia was all in, even agreeing on the spot during the meeting. She gave me a cold smile and said, "Is it that I can't live without you?" I played along, looking down, and nodded. "Yeah, Mia, is there still a chance for us?" Her eyes were icy as she turned away. Mentioning the reality show wasn't what I thought. The show was set to air while she and Leo filmed their new drama, hyping up their on-screen romance with the lifestyle swap theme. Mia and Leo would share a room, while I'd room with Leo's wife, Lily, a 19-year-old who skyrocketed to fame with a single drama, won major awards, then retired to get married. Mia had overshadowed her, becoming famous for looking 70% like Lily. Rumor had it that after marrying Leo, Lily and Leo lived apart. He loved her but couldn't have her, or something like that. At the Hot Spring Hotel, 2 rooms separated by a wall hosted the live broadcast. Inside was an observation room, and outside, the audience was buzzing with live comments. Everyone was freaking out, thinking Mia and Leo were on a divorce reality show, sharing a room and vibing hard. Fans were saying things like, "Mia and her hubby don't have feelings for each other," and "I've been waiting for their split forever." The staff had put heartbeat tracker watches on Mia and Leo. If the heartbeat value hit 90, they could leave the room, but both of their values stopped at 88. Privately, they were super tight, doing everything together, too close to mess up. On the show, they pretended otherwise, and fans were all over it, saying Leo was being polite and not getting too close, while others were betting on Mia to leave him for good. Meanwhile, I was alone in my room, wearing the heartbeat tracker. Someone knocked. Lily had arrived. She was a tall, well-proportioned woman with curves in all the right places, wearing a light beige trench coat and high-waisted shorts that showed off her long, beautiful legs. She brushed back her damp hair, revealing her misty, almond-shaped eyes as light rain fell outside. She looked as crisp as the foggy night. Fans went wild with comments like, "My goddess is back," and "How do you judge Mia? No comparison, no hurt." I handed Lily the other heartbeat tracker watch, remembering how Mia hated it when people said she looked like Lily. In our first year of marriage, we walked the streets at dawn. I was staring at a luxury billboard featuring Lily and couldn't move. Mia grabbed my ear, blocked my view, and snapped, "I knew you liked this kind of look." Now Mia watched from the balcony as Lily walked in and closed the door. I greeted Lily, "Hey Mia, my value's at 70, and handed her the watch. She said the watch was broken when her value skyrocketed after a sharp beep. Later, after swapping the watches, everything worked fine. Mia and Leo's heartbeat values exceeded 90 and left early, while mine with Lily stayed stubbornly low at 20. Fans were losing it, saying there was zero chemistry between us. The variety show was recorded on weekends, focusing on weekend spouses. During weekdays, I picked up an old job, trying to get back with my original entertainment company as an agent. My old boss told me Lily and Leo were already divorced. She'd signed a 10-year contract with Leo's dad's company and could finally terminate it. She was restructuring her studio, and I got recommended to her. I visited her studio address and saw Lily looking naturally charming under the lights, her eyes holding a subtle allure. She was harder to approach than I thought. I waited outside for ages, but her assistant said, "Sorry, Mr. Wong, we can't meet today. The car broke down on the way back." It was 11 p.m., raining in the wilderness. I held an umbrella, waiting for a tow truck, watching cars pass by like night spirits. Finally, a red Ferrari pulled up, and Lily's assistant said, "Mr. Wong, hop in. Lily's in the back." Lily was asleep, leaning against the window with a faint scent of Lily of the Valley lingering. Same scent from the day she held my hand. The assistant offered to grab a bottle of water. I insisted, "Call me George," and joined him. Once inside, it was just Lily and me, with dim lighting and a row of seats separating us. Her breathing was so close it felt like she was right beside my ear. As we drove, I noticed the nearby supermarket glowing blue. I remembered walking through there once and seeing Leo's ad. I had told Mia, "Isn't that the lead for your next drama? He looks pretty good." She rolled her eyes, saying, "What's that? He's so fake, has a bad temper, and acts all high and mighty because he's rich." I didn't know that this pretentious guy made her refuse to come home time and again. Later, I learned Leo was Mia's first love. They broke up when she couldn't make it big, and she couldn't forget him. But back then, in the supermarket, she smoothly changed the subject, asking me, "Bro, have you ever dated anyone before me?" I said, "No, at least not publicly." In the car, someone started kicking my leg. Long legs in high heels sliding over my calf, deliberate and playful. I pushed her foot aside, neither speaking nor turning around, acting like nothing happened. She whispered softly, "George, maybe just waking up with a lazy, soft tone. Long time no see. After all these years, why did she still call my name that way?" Just like in that cramped rental apartment, I was drowning in her mesmerizing tenderness. After that day, Lily and I didn't keep in touch until another weekend rolled around. The show switched to the original couple pairing. Leo said to the director, "The audience loves Mia and me too much. If we switch back now, fans will hate us." The director hesitated but then asked Mia, "Who are you choosing tonight?" Mia glanced at me, snorted lightly, and replied, "Do I need to choose? The audience doesn't want to see him." Leo got his answer and smiled at me. "George, can I borrow Mia for a few more days? We're doing this for the fans. If you're not an actor, you wouldn't get it. But for us, the audience's approval is everything." Think bigger. I interrupted firmly. No way. I sounded decisive. Mia looked up, expecting me to lose my cool so they could edit my reaction into scenes showing Leo's kindness and Mia's grievance. But I was surprisingly agreeable. Leo, who had memorized his lines, found himself speechless. After a pause, he dryly said, "All right, don't back out." I decided, "Let's keep it this way from now on." He looked stiff, then smiled again, whispering, "Do you want Mia to get jealous? Everyone knows you joined the show to win her back. What do we do? Not only is she not jealous, but you can only watch her enter my room helplessly." Just then, the director announced they'd stick with last week's setup. Before leaving, Mia teased Leo. "Aren't you scared of him and Lily sharing a room?" Mentioning Lily made Leo react strongly, as if hearing a huge joke. He disdainfully said, "Have you never seen who she likes? Someone like him, a loser. Even after being locked up together for a year, she can't stand him." They exchanged glances and shared a knowing smile. Mia took Leo's coat and put it on herself, saying, "George, if you want to win me back, these tactics aren't enough." She wanted to provoke me into getting angry in public so she could naturally become the victim. Mia and Leo were taken to a luxurious villa as a reward for last week's highest heartbeat pairing. Leo posted a Weibo update about a candlelit dinner, and live comments went wild. I saw all this while scrolling my phone in the show's van heading towards the old town. Comments read, "If their heartbeat values don't go up tonight, they're out. Lily won't be eliminated because of her star power, and why did Lily take on this show? The weirder it is, the more I love watching it. Something's bound to go down." The host handed me a mission slip saying, "Open it once you're in the car. Only you can see it." Leo was driving, and Mia sat in the passenger seat, acting all sweet. He tried to gauge my reaction, saying, "Hey, your wife gets carsick easily. She'll sit in the passenger seat. You cool with that?" Mia turned to see if I'd get upset and apologize, but instead I ignored her and sat in the back with Lily. At a red light, Leo and Mia glanced at us through the rearview mirror. When it turned green, Leo said, "George," showed Mia a new ring he'd given her last night, and explained it represented their ship in the show. "I showed it to you so you wouldn't overthink, but you probably can't understand the love Mia and I have for our roles." I kept my head down, staring at the mission slip. It read, "Hold Lily's hand without getting noticed by the other group." Earlier that morning on the highway, it was wide with few cars and tropical plants stretching out. Bright winter sunlight bathed half the car when the navigation system alerted us to enter a tunnel. I glanced sideways. Lily had her eyes closed, hands dangling. I reached out to hold her hand, but she took a shallow breath and moved her hand away. Did she notice? I sighed, wanting to retract my hand but fearing it was too obvious, so I placed mine in the middle of the leather seat. Leo kept taunting, "George, don't you think the one being cheated on also has some faults? If he can't keep his wife, don't blame others for stealing her away." The tunnel was short, and before I could pull back, the car was back in the sunlight. I turned to pull my hand away, but suddenly I was gently pulled back. Our fingers intertwined as old-fashioned love songs played on the radio, singing about a man realizing his wife is cheating and flying away. The song kept repeating, "She should realize it soon, right?" 5 seconds before the song ended, Mia, sitting in the passenger seat, annoyed by my lack of response to Leo, said through the mirror, "So some people deserve to be betrayed." She was too focused on my face to notice our tightly clasped hands in the back seat's leather. I forgot. Lily is a possessive Yandere girl. We couldn't hold hands in the dark, but needed to hold hands under the sunlight. The live comments were buzzing, saying, "This awkward, overly cautious vibe feels off," and, "Oh my God." I turned off the lights. In reality, nothing had happened. Lily was lying on the bed while I was on the floor, staring at the other end, unable to sleep because her bed was too noisy, every little movement creaking and groaning. In the past, Lily had complained about this, but she'd add a worn-out remark like, "George, don't hold back." When we were young, we were inseparable day and night. Now she gently turned over, and with a creak, I remembered the incident. It wasn't just me who remembered. Lily pulled back the blanket, wearing a thin camisole, and got up to go outside. In the deep, neon-lit night, she quietly gazed into the distance, not far away. Car lights flashed by as Mia and Lily, who had come out of the car, briefly made eye contact. Mia smiled lightly and said, "I'm here to deliver cakes." She leaned in, peering through the window, clearly seeing the separate blankets on the bed and floor, not interfering with each other. She smiled knowingly, pouting, "I don't have a good way either. George just likes the cakes I make." Despite not being very close and the other person not responding, Mia inexplicably wanted some presents, saying, "George can't get used to others making food for him. He always wants me to make it, and he rejects what others make. He'll be so happy when he wakes up tomorrow and sees them." Mia raised her eyes and said, "By the way, you might not know, I'm his first love." "Is that so?" Lily finally replied to her. Mia said, "Why are you lying to me? George joined the show just to win me back." That cake, I didn't see it when I woke up the next day. The live broadcast ended, and during the post-show gathering, the four of us met for the first time. I arrived late, being the last to enter. The staff handed me a microphone, which kept snagging on my collar. Leo and Mia were pulling out question cards. I flicked the microphone a couple of times, and it fell to the ground. Lily picked it up and said, "Thanks." I wanted to take it from her, but she didn't let go. Instead, she leaned closer, tiptoed, and helped me clip it onto my collar. A second later, she took a Band-Aid from her pocket. I was speechless. Those familiar kids' Band-Aids covered with cartoon oranges. Every time I got hurt before, she'd make me wear one. As she stuck the microphone on, she adjusted it effortlessly. It wasn't an overly intimate gesture, just colleagues looking out for each other with cameras and people around. Mia's voice came through, her peripheral vision scanning me and Lily. Very normal action. If Lily hadn't subconsciously brushed against my chest, her scent was too familiar. She used the same shampoo without changing. Even after all these years, the scene suddenly fell silent. Mia abruptly stood up, and Lily withdrew her hand, politely saying, "Sorry, I accidentally brushed against you." The host saved the moment, saying, "It happens often. Let's continue with the questions." Mia didn't have time to clearly see. It should have been just an accident. She sat back down. It was Kwanda time. When it was my turn, I drew the first love card. The host asked, "Is your first love your favorite?" Mia rested her chin on one hand, looking at me. Everyone's eyes wandered between me and Mia. They thought my first love was her. I replied, "Yes." Upon hearing my answer, Mia sat up straight, glancing towards Lily with a hint of pride. But Lily was distracted, turning her face to look out the window at the falling snow. My reflection mirrored in the window. The host then asked Lily the same question. She pressed her lips together and said, "He hates me. He really hates me." Her tone extremely soft, carrying a sense of grievance. Everyone perked up, ears tuned to gossip. The host asked, "Why does he hold such a grudge? What did he do?" She turned her head, elongating her tone. For example, marrying someone else but saying his true love is someone like me, disjointed and incoherent. No one understood, but Mia couldn't help but slightly furrow her brows. The host flipped the last card. He asked, "George, what would you like to say to your first love now?" 100 safe responses floated through my mind, but I blurted out, "I hope she doesn't hate me too much." Very reasonable. Everyone understood. They thought I wanted to rekindle things with Mia. Mia was even more proud, raising her eyebrow to tease me, not intending to give me any leeway. Until the same question, Lily answered, "I just lied to him earlier. I don't hate him." Mia began to realize something was off. Sunday night's live broadcast required both pairs to return to the original Hot Spring Hotel to create more topics. The production team squeezed all four of us into the same car. Live comments were still mainly about Mia and Leo, but the direction was subtly shifting. Comments read, "Think about it carefully. If you weren't as blind as Mia, you'd choose to join us jumping right in front of the main couple. And Mia is still happily counting her money. Someone countered, "It's just a coincidence. Lily and George never interacted before." Discussions between Lily and me had increased significantly, with some fans even creating a shipping hashtag for us. Before getting into the car, the host secretly handed me a mission slip. She said, "Open it once you're in the car. Only you can see it." Leo was driving, equipped with cameras inside. Mia naturally sat in the passenger seat. Leo looked helpless, purposely turning his head to gauge my reaction. He said, "Hey, your wife gets carsick easily. She'll sit in the passenger seat. You don't mind, do you?" Mia also turned her head, trying to see how I'd react, hoping I'd get upset and play the innocent, aggrieved girl to apologize. But instead, I ignored her completely and sat in the back with Lily. When the traffic light turned red, Leo and Mia glanced through the rearview mirror towards the back seat. Mia looked at me. Leo looked at Lily. Meanwhile, Lily and I sat at opposite ends of the seat, keeping the greatest distance possible. As the light turned green, Leo said, "George." He took Mia's hand and showed me a new ring on her finger. It was the one Leo had given her last night. In front of the cameras, he said, "Don't get the wrong idea. This ring represents the ship between our characters in the show. I showed it to you to prevent you from overthinking, but you probably can't understand the love Mia and I have for our roles." I kept my head down, staring at the mission slip, my mind blank. It read, "Hold Lily's hand without being noticed by the other group." Earlier that morning on the highway, it was wide with few cars and tropical plants stretching out. Bright winter sunlight bathed half the car when the navigation system alerted us to enter a tunnel. I glanced sideways. Lily had her eyes closed, hands dangling. I reached out to hold her hand, but she took a shallow breath and moved her hand away. Did she notice? I sighed, wanting to retract my hand but fearing it was too obvious, so I placed mine in the middle of the leather seat. Leo kept taunting, "George, don't you think the one being cheated on also has some faults? If he can't keep his wife, don't blame others for stealing her away." The tunnel was short, and before I could pull back, the car was back in the sunlight. I turned to pull my hand away, but suddenly I was gently pulled back. Our fingers intertwined as old-fashioned love songs played on the radio, singing about a man realizing his wife is cheating and flying away. The song kept repeating, "She should realize it soon, right?" 5 seconds before the song ended, Mia, sitting in the passenger seat, annoyed by my lack of response to Leo, said through the mirror, "So some people deserve to be betrayed." She was too focused on my face to notice our tightly clasped hands in the backseat's leather. I forgot. Lily is a possessive yandere girl. We couldn't hold hands in the dark, but needed to hold hands under the sunlight. The third season's weekend live broadcast was an outdoor shoot at another city's long winter coastline hot spring hotel. The host was on the bus, explaining the process. Today, I found out that Lily and I grew up in the same place. The theme for this episode was returning to the city where Lily studied. Previously, no one thought we'd have any connection. Mia in the front row furrowed her brows slightly, her gaze fixed on me sitting at the other end. Lily shook her head and said, "No, I was just studying here temporarily." Lily had a tough childhood, which was well known in the industry, an abusive stepfather and a gambling mother. These were points of attack by detractors before. Mia looked down on Lily's background, her tone icy and ambiguous. "I didn't know your life was like this. Seriously, what do you have to show off about?" Mia's tone was very dissatisfied because she had disliked Lily for a long time. She always believed that Lily's ability to win awards was because she met Leo's father when she was 19, a major entertainment mogul. He almost changed Lily's life trajectory. Now, with Lily and Leo divorced and no longer contracted with the company, she was completely resourceless, and those resources now belonged to Mia. No one in the car dared to respond. I spoke calmly. Her tough past has made her stronger than some spoiled heiresses. Even with such a huge disparity in starting points, some people will always find it hard to keep up. After getting off the car, we walked along the city streets, exploring shops. The group arrived at Lily's former school, 13 High School, built along a hillside overlooking a vast sea right outside the gate. Mia walked beside me and asked, "Are you also from 13 High School? I mentioned it before, but she never remembered." I replied, "Yes." She let out a light laugh, but her eyes were cold as she asked, "Don't you know Lily?" I replied, "No, with 25 classes in a grade, we weren't in the same cohort." Lily walked behind us, and upon hearing this, she looked up, her dark eyes staring straight at me. Lily said, "He's a year senior?" Upon hearing this, she looked up, her dark eyes staring straight at me. Lily said, "He's a senior student." The term senior annoyed Mia inexplicably. She quickened her pace, muttering about going to the next place. At the bus stop, the host, on behalf of the live audience, asked Lily, "Was your first love also a classmate at 13 High?" She replied, "Yes." Lily had somehow stood beside me, turning her head to listen to the host without looking at me. She said, "He's a bit fierce." She kept saying that about me in a grade with over 1,000 students. Logically, Lily and I might never have met after graduation, but if she hadn't always been late and I happened to be the diligent class officer tracking latecomers, our paths would still rarely cross. She acted coquettishly. "Can't you remember my name?" 16-year-old Lily, slender and pure, looked up at me with an expression full of grievance. I replied sternly, "No." She said she was late because she went to watch an important underground film festival earlier, those useless art things parents often talk about. No money made, no food earned. She pressed her lips and said, Her tone was so obedient that I thought she was about to register for class. However, in the next second, she turned around with her backpack and ran, looking back mischievously. "Senior, since we're both late, why don't I go watch a bit longer?" I disliked anyone who didn't follow the rules. David said, "George, look, high schooler Lily has been confessed to again." At that time, my former restroom buddy, now my boss and brother, was lying in the corridor watching an influential figure under the school's corner tree. I replied coldly, "I don't like disobedient people." To my surprise, Lily actually heard me. How did she have such good hearing? Her bright eyes glanced my way. We were supposed to have no connection until that day when someone followed me home. I told my mother, but she was busy divorcing my father. After listening, she turned her head and only said to me, "If I divorce your father," her face showed extreme, cold sorrow, "I only want your sister." My sister was likable. She had an early romance with a social youth, didn't want to date anymore, and found someone even more handsome. But she didn't want to be the bad person. Turning her head innocently to the person, she said, "My brother doesn't approve of us being together. That social youth was the person who stalked me. He found my number and messaged me saying, 'I know which class you're in. Wait for me. Even if you stay in detention for a few days, I'll make your pathetic mother shed some blood.'" On my way home, dark figures kept following me. They could do anything. In the alley behind 13 High School, night snow fell. Footsteps grew denser and closer. I clenched the compass in my hand, stood still, and tried to calm my nerves. At that tense moment, a female voice rang out. "I've already called the police." I said, "You guys were harassing and stalking me and taking photos secretly. They only intended to give me a lesson but didn't expect to get arrested." Under strong deterrence, they were scared off. On my way home, she followed me from behind, cautiously saying, "Senior, actually, I'm very, very scared. I was terrified just now." Pretending to be brave, she acted more like it than anyone else. I felt guilty and said, "I'm sorry I dragged you into this." She walked up to me and stopped, shadows blocking the glow of the streetlights. She shook her head and said, "No." Her voice was clean and melodious. She said, I'm the kind of person who is very obedient and well-behaved." I believed her. Those pure eyes looked at me without any impurities. If it weren't for the next day when I saw her taking a group of delinquents to teach those social youths a lesson, I wouldn't have known. And then she was late again, recklessly registering the name Yuya Wei in my notebook. In my second year of college, studying in the provincial capital, my sister called me. She said, "Mom still doesn't want to see you. Who told you to look like Dad?" I asked her, "What are you trying to say?" She let out a sly laugh. "Do you have the phone number of that pretty girl Lily from your high school? My boyfriend really likes her. Can you help me contact her?" Because of blood ties, I was always reluctant to completely cut things off. But that day, I blocked her contact info. For decades, until I got married and divorced, I never contacted her again. At that time, Lily had just finished her college entrance exams. We hadn't been in touch for 3 years. Completely strangers. The third season received a good response, so the production team decided the fourth episode would visit my city. However, this would repeat what was done in the previous episode. The host asked, "Where did you attend university?" The production team decided to go there and take a look. I replied, "South City." As soon as I finished speaking, the staff were surprised and asked, "Isn't that also the city where Lily went to university?" Mia raised her eyes, staring directly at me. That strange and palpable unease on her face became increasingly obvious. Before the fourth live broadcast, I bumped into the finale of Mia and Leo's new drama. According to her agent's original plan, by this promotional stage, the barrage of insults about me on Weibo should have been overwhelming. But reality was the opposite. Due to my indifference in the show's explosive setup, our eerie ship with Lily was subtly trending upwards. Live comments read, "Although George and Lily aren't familiar in public, it feels like things aren't that simple behind the scenes." And I also want to say, the atmosphere in the car during the second episode was a bit strange. I'm sick of it. I have a condition where if Mia isn't unhappy, I'm too happy. Mia's agent turned around and bought time for her. Various terms with my name cycled through several rounds. A small account on the square posted a Weibo saying, "Actually, the two have already divorced," which received over 1,000 likes within an hour. That small account liked every comment supporting Mia and Leo in the comment section. Half an hour later, it posted a photo of me looking disheveled and pale. The caption read, "No wonder my wife ran away looking so messy." This photo was taken by Mia when she was suffering from dysmenorrhea at home. At that time, I endured a severe cold to cook porridge for her. She pouted, insisting that when she was uncomfortable, she only drank what I cooked. She coquettishly said, "Take a picture." I didn't like taking photos, but she insisted on documenting her husband's kindness to post on her moments. So she dragged me to take it. Later, when collecting divorce evidence and going through her phone, I discovered that day's photo. She immediately posted it to Leo saying, "He's so greasy, I can't stand it." Underneath that photo, the comments weren't as the small account had anticipated. Some rational netizens began to scold him, saying, "Is doxing fun? This photo is too private. Seriously suspect your identity? Who doesn't look like this at home?" The small account kept deleting comments and seeing the situation worsen, had to delete the photo. The night before the live broadcast started, Mia called me to ask, "Did you create a small account to curse Leo?" She sent me a screenshot and I recognized that ID. It was her fan who was undermining Leo and Mia. Mia's career was booming, and it was a critical period for her reputation. From the outside, it seemed she hadn't divorced yet and took this explosive variety show to stir up a ship with Leo, which was simply ridiculous. They thought she was possessed by me, although it attracted many ship fans. The more combative supporters quickly dropped off, but who would have thought she was also forced into it? Taking this show was just to whitewash her infidelity and dump the dirty water onto me. I calmly said, "Those were fans who supported you before. Did you forget?" She questioned, "Wasn't it you?" I replied, "Of course not." Her remarks made me laugh. I was about to hang up the call, but she said, "Anyway, Leo's so unhappy because of you. Even though I know it might not be your fault. Can you apologize?" I laughed. "Mia, are you mad that Leo is unhappy, or mad that your supportive fans are leaving?" She was hit by my words, and her tone became much calmer. She sarcastically said, "Do you really believe those netizens' ghost stories about you and Lily?" She snorted coldly and continued, Why don't you go like Lily? Stop liking me. You're too exhausted. In the past, I would have shown weakness at this point, but now I blurted out, all right. She coldly said, I knew you wouldn't agree. Why are you so spineless? She spoke smoothly, only to realize halfway through, surprised, she asked, what did you just say? I was too lazy to repeat myself and hung up the call directly. During the weekend live broadcast, Mia's agent was waiting for me to lose my temper, but unexpectedly, it was Mia who had the problem. Leo helped Mia blow her hair. After finishing, Mia coquettishly leaned towards him. Nothing unusual, but there was a small issue. When she coquettishly called out, she said, George, love you. As soon as she said it, she didn't realize something was wrong. Only when she saw Leo's stiff expression did she realize what she had said. That night, Lily didn't attend the live broadcast. Last year, Lily made a comeback, and her film was nominated for top international awards. Tonight, her flight was leaving abroad. I wandered alone in the city that had been familiar to me years ago. When I returned to the hotel, I saw Mia waiting for me at the door. She wasn't supposed to accompany Leo for dinner. The production team said Mia had voluntarily requested to switch back to the original couple pairing. The host said to me, the show was originally set up this way just for tonight's hotel suite. I checked the positions of all the cameras around. Mia entered the room with a cold and detached expression. On the brown glass table was a spread of dishes. She said, let's eat. I made this myself after being married for so many years. I've never done this before. Seeing me not picking up my chopsticks, she asked, what's wrong, George? Aren't you enjoying your meal over there? I confessed, looking at your face, I can't eat. Her pupils constricted as she frowned and pressed her lips together, trying hard to suppress her frustration, finally turning into a gentle smile. She said, George, I only accompanied Leo for 2 weeks because of work. Why are you still so stern? It's all for work needs. If you care, then let me apologize to you. Mia was so gentle and serene in front of the camera. She also habitually thought that as long as she showed a little goodwill, I would meekly follow along. But I wasn't like that. When I moved things to another room, her face turned red. She sat alone at the dining table, watching the dishes slowly cool. I didn't leave the room again. She let out a dissatisfied snort and immediately called for room service, dumping the entire table of food. That night, I didn't sleep well, especially in my dreams. I was kissed, left on my cheek, light but real, carrying the coldness of a hurried winter night. The room key was accessible to every staff member, so I couldn't determine what happened yesterday. The next day after the live broadcast during breakfast, Mia was in a good mood. After last night's performance, the audience's perception of her had improved significantly. Live comments read, I feel so sorry for Mia. Why does George have to do this? This show is just a couple-swapping romance reality show. Even though it's unique, why did he still join? Leo, come save Mia. The comments above were messed up. Mia called Leo by the wrong name. It was disgusting for fans, and she was still trying to maintain her lovelorn persona. How hard is it to talk about liking or not liking someone after a divorce? Rumor had it, they were already divorced. Mia's agent told her that the initial hype was sufficient and that they would likely announce her and my divorce in the next episode. Taking me out for a stroll, she would perform once more as the heartbroken woman betrayed by her husband. In the final episode, Leo would heal her, spreading some sweetness. The two of them would then be perfectly whitewashed. Mia's agent warned her, this episode is crucial. No matter what happens, don't throw a tantrum. She sipped her coffee, eyes fixed on me, confident of victory and indifferent. She replied, whatever happens. After hanging up the call, she knew I heard everything clearly, but she was sure that even if I knew, I couldn't stir up any trouble. After all, I had signed a confidentiality agreement and received a huge compensation. She asked, does it make you sad? With a disdainful look, she said, no matter what, you can't surpass Leo, nor can you win me. Nothing changes. Her lips parted and closed while she kept talking. I looked at her, not listening with my ears. Only when she paused her coffee did I ask, Last night, was it you who kissed me? The room door was open, and staff members were coming and going with various equipment. She instinctively replied, "Why would I kiss you?" She frowned, realizing something was wrong. The room suddenly fell silent. Outside, staff's idle chatter became exceptionally clear. They discussed, "Why do you have milk tea?" Another replied, "At 5 a.m., Lily delivered breakfast and desserts to all the staff. Didn't you get any? I went to take a dump and missed out on $1 billion. Another comforted, "Here, have mine. Don't be upset." That person asked, "Why did she come back? Wasn't she supposed to go to the film festival?" Another replied, "She said she had something important to do before leaving, so she flew from Beijing and then abroad again. She must be exhausted." That person added, "Yeah, heard she's also running a fever." Who kissed me? I could guess Mia could too, but she didn't believe it. She closed the door and chose not to listen yet. She didn't turn around. She coldly said, "Sounds like a lie." She leaned over and pointed at me, scolding, "You knew she came back last night and intentionally lied about someone kissing you. Are you ashamed, George? Did you do this to make me angry? Did you really think she could like you? If she really fell for you because I took her husband, it's just her revenge for being hurt. Do you understand?" After finishing, she grabbed her water cup and poured it over my head. She said, "You clown, why are you trying to show off? Are you running around being someone's dog?" But it made sense. It was my usual style. If I didn't do this, who would like me? I listened calmly as she spoke. The next second, I grabbed the long brochure on the coffee table and tightly rolled it up, whipping it at her incessant mouth with a crisp slap sound. She was stunned, and a drop of blood quickly appeared at the corner of her mouth. She stared blankly at me and said, "How? How could you?" Outside, the host was knocking on the door. She said, "Mia, we found something." Panicked, she wiped the blood from her lips and said, "Wait a moment." Ignoring the pain, she stuffed the stained paper into the trash can. She opened the door. The host was startled and asked her what happened. She replied, "Nothing, I just bumped into something." She asked the host, "What's he holding in his hand?" Only then did the host see me inside the room, calmly picking up the brochure and politely placing it back on the coffee table, not causing unnecessary trouble for the staff. The host stammered, "Mia." Already irritated from the pain and annoyed, she grabbed the paper and looked at it herself. It was an extremely ordinary registration form, very old, just a photocopy, recording the monthly rent status of a certain rental apartment. The tenant was my name, 800 Win. Everyone who paid rent had to confirm with their own handwritten signatures. But that signature, at that moment, separated by a flight distance of more than 10 hours to the red carpet of the film festival, matched exactly with the handwriting on the backdrop. It was Lily. South City. Long and humid summer. During the summer vacation of my second year in college, I met Lily. I was working part-time at a tutoring center downstairs while she was modeling upstairs. We knew each other, but never greeted. After all, how familiar can people be who hadn't been in contact for 3 years? She'd come back to school, crossing the entire city, a whole 3.5 hours on the bus. Meanwhile, I had rented a temporary apartment nearby. That hottest night of the summer was a typhoon day. I was the last to lock the door. I saw a group of people laughing and talking as they passed upstairs. Lily stood out even more, conspicuously in the crowd, never once looking at me. When I reached the elevator, they had already left. It was empty, actually. A simple greeting would have been nice. After all, we were former classmates. I grabbed my backpack and went downstairs. The night the typhoon came, it wasn't raining. The sky, which should have been like a splash of ink, was dyed an unusually deep pink. Lily was standing there, wearing a fluffy skirt suit paired with low twin ponytails. She looked very obedient, her eyes defenseless. Under the porch light, those eyes carried the clarity of a summer night, like a stray little kitten. She pitifully said, "Senior, the bus is canceled." That night, I took her back to the single-room apartment I had rented for 800 yen. The bed was pitifully small. Later, when she stood on the stage of the highest award ceremony, receiving the Best Actress award and being chased by the audience, I was still in that tiny rental apartment eating instant noodles. The only thought flashing through my mind was one thing: her first time at 19, cramped on my small bed. She truly felt wronged. I didn't understand. Many media descriptions of her were that of a cold goddess, arrogant and unruly. But in my memory, that summer she was always obedient. She was so well behaved, doing all the housework, cooking 3 meals a day, always calling me senior. Only in bed was she incredibly charming, whispering in her throat, "George," crossing boundaries. No matter how I spoke, she didn't listen. Later, I realized her talent was entirely in her acting skills. And the modeling agency upstairs where I worked didn't actually exist. 3.5 hours just to see me. Mia wasn't angry, but she seemed drained of all emotions. Recognizing a fact within seconds, my first love wasn't her. It was a woman who resembled her 7/10. A woman she wanted to take but couldn't. Someone who won an award at 19. Since the day she debuted, Mia had been treated as her substitute. Mia crumpled the paper in her palm, saying nothing more. She coldly said, "What's the big deal? It's something from hundreds of years ago. What does it represent?" She turned to leave without even looking at me, but at the doorway, she suddenly fainted to the ground. As Mia's agent had hoped, she looked terrible in this episode. Everyone thought she was heartbroken and hospitalized for love. It immediately trended on the hot lists. When Mia woke up, I was in the hotel tidying up. She looked around the hospital bed but didn't see me. She instinctively asked Leo, who had been guarding her, "Where is my husband?" Leo, angry and trembling, slapped her several times. The variety show paused indefinitely. Leo came to find me once, saying he had already gotten her, yet he kept trying to show his presence in front of me multiple times, as if he needed my involvement. Only then would his and her love have an anchor point. She began to get tired of his dullness, and he also started to can't stand her antics. It was becoming more like how Mia and I were at that time. As the passion faded, they would face the same problems I did. Now he sat in front of me, emotionally overreacted, leaving only a cold gaze and slightly trembling hands. He asked me, "George, why do you never get angry?" I didn't answer him and stood up to leave. He laughed. He said, "Let me tell you a secret. Marrying Lily was a lie I concocted. I thought I could eventually warm up Lily's icy heart. After all, she had been saved from that 800-win rental apartment by my dad's help. She'd still be an 18-line minor internet celebrity otherwise. I thought she would at least admire me because Lily spent her life rushing to Rome while Leo was born in Rome. But she didn't." Leo said, "I thought a woman like her would never love anyone. But do you know what I discovered after getting married? All her passwords were 207. At first, I thought it was someone's birthday. But later, I realized it was the door number of that crappy rental apartment. Turns out, she always thought of the person she loved during those unbearable times. How ridiculous." I had more vacation days, finished processing my visa, dragged my luggage to the airport, and sat in the lounge watching a drama. A person sat next to me, fully armed. It was Mia. She whispered, "We need to talk." At the airport, in front of the large glass windows reflecting the blue sky, she wore a black dress, looking much thinner. She asked, "What was your real reason for joining the show?" She asked herself, "Was it not to win me back, but to see her? Right. Even getting married to me was just because I looked like her. Right." I didn't speak, counting the boarding time. She bit her lip. "George, is it fun to lie? To treat my feelings like a prank and act like someone's dog? To actually want to smear me by taking the show? I'm just repaying in kind. Why are you acting like a victim? If I really were a simp, would you feel guilty questioning me like this?" "Mia, it's what you said yourself. Some people deserve to be betrayed." Time was up, and I turned to board the flight. When my phone was off, I received a text from Mia. She said, "I will destroy both of you." Understanding pain only when you hurt yourself. Mia always believed this. If Lily's and my reputations were ruined, I would go back to find her. But Mia couldn't tell whether this impending revenge was because of my departure, or because over the years, people in the industry always mentioned Lily whenever they saw her. The desire to destroy had been suppressed for too long and was stronger than ever. She had completely re-edited the divorce reality show from start to finish, producing a full-length live broadcast on the day it was released. She specifically chose the day Lily received her award on stage. Mia's Weibo only posted one sentence. He was the one cheating, divorced. Public opinion erupted. Mia and her agent both thought this was a first-move advantage and were sure to win. I was just an amateur, and Lily had no resources. Their team couldn't keep up. A whole night passed. Mia was shaking with excitement, not even having time to open Weibo and celebrate. Then the door was knocked. She was arrested. Her agent was also arrested. On the day of the agreed divorce, she thought I was so sad that I couldn't control myself looking at her phone. She thought I was only trying to confirm whether she had ever loved me. But little did she know, I was gathering evidence. The day Leo approached me on the plane landed. I was the first to call my brother. I said, I've always suspected that Mia and her team were evading taxes. My brother taught me how to collect evidence and how to report them. Later, he reminded me, George, the process of gathering evidence is long. You better play the full role. Isn't she asking you to participate in that stupid variety show? Just go and play along with her. Lower her guard. I went. My original intention was revenge, but meeting Lily was an unexpected event. The full version of the live broadcast that Mia posted that day was repeatedly analyzed by uploaders on a certain platform. After the smart brains of netizens and various marketing accounts trolling efforts, they finally discovered that it was Mia and Leo who were cheating. Dates, times, and locations matched one by one. My reunion with Lily happened after both of us had divorced. A purely low-probability coincidence. The day the plane landed abroad, I sneaked backstage using the work ID Lily's assistant gave me. The celebration banquet had already begun. A close friend got excited and asked Lily, "Do you dare make a bet?" The music was blasting, and she covered her ears, asking, "What are we betting on?" The other party leaned close to her ear and whispered something softly. She nodded and said, "I bet." She lost the bet and accepted the punishment, being surrounded and patted on the head by her friends. A purple-toned evening party, gold leaf falling from the sky, Lily walked towards the light. Her eyes were veiled with a faint layer of tears. Her friend teased her, "No, sis, you were acting so fiercely during filming when Leo stepped on you and you went to the hospital without saying a word. Now you get patted on the head and your eyes turn red. What are you acting for?" Lily turned her head and replied, "Mind your own business." Someone raised an eyebrow and pointed to me standing at the door, telling her friends, "The one who's going to care has arrived. You better act more." Lily pushed them away amidst the crowd. We locked eyes, and she walked towards me. I asked, "What did you bet on earlier, and how did you lose it?" She replied, "They said, let's bet on whether I can see the person I love the most tomorrow." I said, "I can't." So she lost. She walked up to me, snuggled into my arms, and said, "Today, I will see him." You say she was so obedient, but many years later, when David heard me describe Lily this way, he laughed for at least 10 minutes. He said, "Bro, how is that possible? If Lily were just a delicate flower, she wouldn't have made it this far." The kind of family downfall talked about online, a joke to others but a harsh reality for Lily. She was truly born to her mother in a public restroom. She didn't know who her biological father was. She stayed with her mother. By 7, she had learned how to buy groceries and cook, watching her mother get drunk and beaten by men again and again, yet unable to leave. When she was young, every time, she would apply medicine to her mother's wounds, curling up beside her, warming her hands. She loved her unconditionally because she was her mother. It wasn't until high school that she realized her mother had been destroying other people's families all along. She followed the traces, from school to someone's home, not daring to approach. Inside, the woman was endlessly hysterical while the men remained cold and abusive. The little girl squatting on the stone steps outside could only draw aimlessly in the sand, trying to make herself invisible. At that moment, Lily wished she could take her mother's place and die. Just like later, when Leo's father gave her the opportunity to become famous, signing her for 10 years, the most precious 10 years of her acting career. All the wealth she created, not a single penny stayed with her. It all went into Leo's father's pocket. She couldn't leave, working day and night to make money with compensation reaching billions. She would never be able to repay it in her lifetime. No one knew how much she suffered. In her most painful year, she thought about ending it all. From birth to death, she was constantly atoning for her sins. In her room, in the cramped old flip phone, she dialed countless numbers, 207. Too painful, she thought. As long as she didn't want him anymore, she would just die. But there was no such time. Every moment she thought of him. That year, when Leo's pursuit of her dominated the trending searches, I thought she would never come back to find me again. By a twist of fate, I married Mia. After all, I needed a stage to showcase my talents. I didn't want to stay alone in that 800 yuan rental apartment. A year later, Lily saw the announcement of my marriage trending as well. At that time, Leo's father was critically ill, the man who had been both a benefactor and a tormentor to her. After being tormented repeatedly by illness, he agreed to let Lily go, saying, "As long as you marry Leo and help him acquire equity, you can get a divorce and I'll let you go." She agreed, married, divorced, and then left. Leo wanted her to appear on a variety show. She saw my name. That night, she braved the rain to come to the hot spring hotel. After a long separation, holding the heartbeat-detecting watch, the first thing I said to her was, "You need to wear this." Lily thought, what to do? I can't deceive him. She didn't know. How far must familial bonds be repaid to achieve liberation? She didn't know. How long must favors be repaid to achieve liberation? She didn't know. How long must favors be repaid to be clean in this world? There is no unconditional love, she thought. But George only cares about her happiness. That year, praying on the mountain, I closed my eyes with a vague, unspoken wish. May Lily be happy. May everyone be able to meet the person they want to see, no matter how many years pass.